Believe it or not, the US presidential campaign season is just around the corner. Now, most Americans are exhausted from the endless stream of toxic news that has filled our timelines and TV stations for what feels like a decade. Let's try to put a fun spin on things. One way we can do this is by trying to imagine what an election would be like if fictional characters we know and love could run for office, instead of it just being men 70 years and older. I'll provide a brief summary explaining why this character would make a great president. I will also assign them a running mate and mention their key policies. But first, let's pay our respects to the characters who just missed the cut. Leia Organa, Captain Ray Holt, Zelda, George Washington, Colonel Mustang, every Morgan Freeman character except when he played a bad guy. Let's begin. Uncle Iroh's birthright was to be the Fire Lord. He could have brought about a new age for his nation, but a tragic event led to him taking a backseat to his younger brother Ozai, who I like to describe as Hitler with superpowers and slightly better facial hair. I think it's about time we give the Dragon of the West his time in the sun. Anyone who watched Avatar: The Last Airbender knows Iroh is full of wisdom and lives to teach others, and he's darn good at it. If he can turn a lost soul as broken as Zuko into an outstanding human being, then I think he can help mend the divide between our nation. He's experienced the price of war and has no desire to start conflicts, but when trouble comes his way, he's more than capable of fighting back, which anyone can admire. Iroh is the leading member of a secret global organization known as the Order of the White Lotus. That's another example of leadership. Plus, everyone knows you need to be in at least one secret society if you want to be president. His running mate would be his nephew Zuko. Iroh wouldn't have it any other way. He thinks of Zuko as a son. And think about it, how could Iroh do the day-to-day tasks that come with being president without throwing in a few corny dad jokes Zuko's way? Also, don't be shocked if Zuko runs after Iroh serves his 2 terms. It'll be sort of like Bush Sr. and Bush Jr., only with fewer moments like this.
We got an issue in America. Too many good docs are getting out of business. Too many OBGYNs aren't able to practice their love with women all across this country.
Some key policies of Iroh would include peace, education, and equality for all. A bit boring, but what can you do? Also, tea will be a big deal now, as in when you turn on the faucets, tea will come out. Also, hunting of dragons is now illegal. I think that should lock up the always important PETA vote. Our next candidate is Robb Stark from Game of Thrones. Robb was born to be a leader. He's got the looks and charming personality to win voters over. I should note, he has no idea what a voter is. Robb's political campaign hinges on storming DC with his troops and becoming the king of America by force. While it's not the best example of democracy, you have to admit, sounds pretty cool, right? Don't worry though, Robb won't disregard all our customs. For example, one of the best traditions of being president is getting a dog. Robb is already ahead of the curve there and will outdo all past presidents with his direwolf Greywind. The campaign staff can use Greywind in press photos, plus Robb can ride into battle with him. Throughout his run on Game of Thrones, Robb proved he has a knack for bringing people together. We saw this when he convinced his fellow Northmen to join him in a war against the Lannisters. Wouldn't it be great to have a president that can bring us all together again? Robb's running mate would be his sort of brother Jon Snow. Let's be honest, Robb's chance of surviving this entire term are pretty slim, so his perfect second in command is a man who is assassin-proof and as loyal as they come. Jon's one condition is that America stop raiding the wildlings up north of the border, or as we call them, Canadians. I'll admit it won't be an easy sell. Some of his key policies will be that the North shall succeed from the Union. Think of it as payback. Trial by combat will be the new standard in how we deal with lawsuits. If you're a lawyer, I recommend paying for karate lessons and maybe buying one of those swords they sell at the mall. A certain song will be banned from all weddings, henceforth, and to really stick it to those blonde incest is now a federal crime. For some reason, it's still legal in Rhode Island and New Jersey.
I find it disgusting.
Up next, we have Furiosa from Mad Max Fury Road. It's about time America had a badass at the helm, and I dare anyone to find someone as BA as Furiosa. Famously, during the second 2016 presidential debate, as Hillary Clinton was answering questions, Donald Trump loomed and paced close behind her, similar to a shark trying to decide if it wanted to take a bite out of an unsuspecting boogie boarder. Whether or not it was intentional, it came off as Trump trying to intimidate her, and it worked. Hillary admitted it made her feel uncomfortable and that she should have confronted him about it. Do you think Furiosa would have had a problem chewing out another candidate? If anything, her opponents would be scared to make eye contact with her. Using my imaginary analytics, Furiosa scores well among both men and women. Ladies appreciate her for standing up for herself and saving those poor girls from the saggy old hands of Immortan Joe, while men love the fact that she can fight and drive well. We're easy to please. Furiosa won't want any help running the nation, but just so people will shut up about it, she will choose Barry as her running mate. For anyone who doesn't recall, Barry is the smaller of the 2 tumors on Nux' shoulder. Barry knows better than to talk back or question Furiosa's decisions. Now for the key policies. Furiosa demonstrated a passion for helping those who can't help themselves when she rescued the wives. She'll make key policies protecting victims and providing harsh punishments for the criminals. Think about what happened to Immortan Joe at the end of the movie, levels of harshness. Free water. Most of us take H2O for granted, but it can be a godsend for others. Furiosa lost her arm fighting for Immortan Joe. This hasn't stopped her from being a badass, but she knows that some people with disabilities need accommodation so they can succeed. So expect to see more handicap parking and prosthetic arms that can be used as weapons. Up next, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Uncle Phil. That's right, we have two uncles on this list. Uncle Phil, similar to Uncle Iroh, must take in his troubled nephew and try to guide him towards adulthood. But unlike Zuko, who took everything too seriously, Willow couldn't help but turn everything into a joke. That's why Uncle Phil's approach was to scream and threaten Will at least twice per episode. This doesn't mean Phil is always mean though. In one of the most heartwarming moments in sitcom history, Will gets emotional when his deadbeat dad lets him down yet again. Uncle Phil did the one thing he could do and give the biggest bear hug ever captured on camera. This kind of guidance, a firm hand but a kind heart, is what America needs right now. Uncle Phil ran for judge over a multi-episode arc that involved Will being arrested for unpaid parking tickets at a fundraiser and Uncle Phil, Will, and Phil's son Carlton being trapped in a cave during a snowstorm. Just imagine all the shenanigans the family will get up to if they actually get into the White House. Try to picture this. Will and Carlton are fighting. They accidentally bump up against a bookshelf, which opens up a secret door revealing an alien in a large tube. Will and Carlton look at the alien, look at each other, then finally look at the camera before cutting to commercial break. I have to imagine that there's a camera following the characters around because, it's just too good not to. Don't pretend you wouldn't want to see that. The biggest risk for any campaign is a scandal. Even a small one can ruin a politician's career. But Uncle Phil doesn't have to worry about that. Uncle Phil managed to switch out wives after season 3, and even his kids didn't notice. His running mate will be Will's friend Jazz. Why, you're probably wondering? The reason is simple. If things go wrong, Jazz will be the fall guy. Uncle Phil will unceremoniously throw Jazz out of the White House for the press to see, then pick Carlton as his VP. Now for the key policies. Uncle Phil loves food as much as anyone, and would dedicate a good portion of his efforts to make sure every person has 3, or maybe 5.5 square meals a day. Also, as it's stated in the show, Uncle Phil came from less than prominent beginnings. It would make sense he would want to prevent others from being limited by the circumstances in which they were raised, meaning putting more resources in low-income neighborhoods, including West Philadelphia. Our final candidate is the one, the only, Pikachu. The age of man is over. The time of the Pokemon has begun. For too long, we humans have forced Pokemon to fight for our amusement. From here on out, the Pokemon will be the trainers, and we will fight for our masters so they can win insignificant amounts of cash and collect badges. Our version of evolving will be when our Pokemon overlords give us a new haircut and pump us full of HGH. We will each have our own type. I plan on being the kind that throws sand at my enemies' faces, causing confusion. I'm strong against those without eye protection, but if you have goggles, I'm pretty much screwed. This might sound like a terrible fate for all of us, but there's not much you can do to stop it. Moms across the nation will vote for him because he's too damn cute not to. Plus, there's a sizable population who would rather fight for a living than work their current 9-to-5 job. And since no one can understand Pikachu, it means that it's impossible for him to say anything offensive. Cancel culture is powerless to stop him. To cap it off, his campaign slogan will be, Pikachu, I choose you. F***ing brilliant. Pikachu's running mate will be no other than Charmander. Having a firebender on his staff will appease those mad that Uncle Iroh didn't win. And he's also adorable. Key policies, Pokemon now force humans to fight to the death, earning Pikachu the P to vote. Also, we're changing the national anthem to the Pokemon theme song. And also, Digimon are now illegal. These are just a few of the fictional characters I think would be great candidates. Right now, I'm leaning towards casting my vote for Uncle Iroh, but then again, a world run by Pokemon sounds pretty enticing. Let me know what fictional character you would want running the country. And if you're eligible, please vote in the actual elections, preferably for a real person.